All right, welcome students. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the time value of money keys on your financial calculator. Now, the purpose of this video is to give you guys an overview of the time value of money keys, which is what really make the BAIIPlus a financial calculator. I have a lot of students at the beginning of my course that ask me, Professor, can I use a scientific calculator? Can I use this? And I really tell them you're really making things more difficult for yourself. This is a specific finance calculator, and these are the primary keys that you really are not going to find in any other calculator. Okay, so that's the purpose, to just introduce you, to get you familiar with these time value of money keys. All right, so we're going to define the keys. Now on your calculator, we're going to go from left to right, but in this case, in order to make this easy for me to write, we're going to go top to bottom. All right, so you'll see that your financial calculator has an N, and this N is actually for the number of periods. Okay, now this sets the duration. Okay, this sets the duration of how long. Now, this is specifically done in years. Now, that's so very simple, right? If you want 5 years, you put in 5 for N. The next one is interest per year, or the nominal interest rate. There's a lot of finance terms here, but just interest, interest per year. That's why we have the divisor sign here, right? So this is just our interest per year. Now, the next key is our present value. This is the value of money in today's dollars. Okay. In today's. Okay. And then we have payments. Now, payments, I define them very specific. Okay. They are equal, periodic, and finite. Of course, they're a dollar amount. When I say that they are equal, payments happen. So for example, let's say you set N to 5 years. So that means you're going to get 5 payments. These payments must be equal. When you put in, for example, let's say 1,000 into payment, you're going to get 5 equal payments of 1,000. So they're equal. They are periodic, meaning they are going to be for that 5-year term in our example, and they are finite, meaning that it ends. Just like we've defined it as 5 years here, that means that our payments are going to end after 5 years. And then we have future value, which is the value of money at a determined time in the future. Okay, so let's see, value of money. So for example, again, if we said we needed a 5-year term, we would understand what that value was 5 years in the future. Okay? All right. Let's keep moving here. Now, I want to talk about the time value of money keys directions, meaning positive or negative. Which way should they go? Now, this is going to be a very brief overview. However, if you want a lot more detail about which direction and how to determine, I've made a whole video on that. So for this video, we're going to make this very simple. For this introductory, so you're learning about time value of money, your number of periods and your interest per year, or your nominal interest rate, will always be positive. For present value, payments, and future value, it could be positive or it could be negative, depending on the circumstances of what's being asked in the question or what you're trying to solve for. So again, I'll just let you know that now. That's how these keys work in terms of whether positive or negative. If you want a lot more detail, I have a video for you on that specific topic. Okay, but here I just want to keep it simple. So the BAIIPlus defaults to years. And what do I mean by that? Now, we talked about previously the N, or the compounding period. This is in years. So when you punch in, for example, a 5, a 10, a 100, your calculator is going to understand that to all be in years. Okay. In terms of your interest rate, you can see here very specifically, it's already in years, right? It says per year, right? So this is already in per year terms. Now, one thing I want to mention here, the interest rate is not a decimal. So let's say you wanted to enter 8%. You would just enter the whole number 8% into your finance calculator. Let me show you. So if I wanted to enter 8%, I would just hit 8 and I would hit that interest per year. And it's going to understand that as 8%. There's a little bit of confusion initially with students. Do I put this in as a decimal, 0.08, or do I put this as an 8? So I'm letting you know now, this goes in as a whole number. Okay? Now, the last one I want to talk about where this is affected is the payments. Remember, I said that they're equal, periodic, and finite. So because they're periodic, they're going to follow N. So if you put in 100 years, $100 payment for 100, it'll be for 100 years, right? Or it could be any payment. It could be a $2,500 payment for 10 years, okay? So that is also on a per year basis. Lastly, I want to leave you, before I move on, these two, present value and future value, because they're one-time events, and I'll show you this in the timeline that I'll do next. These are not really impacted by the fact that the TI BAIIPlus is defaulted 2 years, okay? So you don't need to worry about that for these two terms. The last thing I'll leave you with, and I will not spend a lot of time here because this is a little bit more advanced, is that there is some maneuvering you need to do with your calculator when you get into semi-annual compounding, into quarterly compounding, and into monthly compounding. There is some very specific math that you need to follow, but we're not going to get into that here. I might make a separate video that you guys can watch and understand how do we get our calculator in the right place so that we can solve for different compounding periods, okay? Lastly, time value of money placement. Here's where I'm going to show you why present value and future value are not impacted by this, default set to years that your calculator is set to. Now, what I want to talk about here is, at least in the beginning of my course, I really like to establish some rules because they make it really easy for students to not get lost and confused when dealing with these 5 new terms, okay? There's one thing I wanted to mention. When you're solving for time value of money, you will always be given 4 out of the 5 terms. Now, some of those terms may be omitted in the questions you're solving, and that just means that that term is set to 0. But, for example, when you're solving your time value of money, what you're going to do is you're going to input 4 out of the 5, and then you'll hit compute, and then you'll hit whatever term that you're looking for, okay? So, I just want to talk about where do these terms live in the timeline? Because I have them set, I have my students remember this order very carefully. I won't add any numbers here. I'm just going to tell you where they live. So let's just go one by one. N, I always put N on the top left. The interest rate per year is always in the first bracket. This goes here, the interest rate. The present value. This is a one-time event. Happens today. This is today. Okay, this is the present value. Payments, you can see here. Payments. And then future value is, again, a one-time event out in the future. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. There is one caveat with payments, but I don't think this is the right video for that. It gets a little bit more, once you start actually learning about time value of money, you'll learn about the nuances of payments, okay? So I'm gonna leave this here. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you have any time value of money questions, I would be more than happy to help you through that. And if you don't have any questions, I hope I see you in the next video.